And you can buy today with credit card with bitcoins.
No.
Many places.
It's an additional means of payment. So you buy, or I don't know. I was about to buy a stroller 1 week ago from a Dutch store, and much to my surprise, I saw that I can pay with my Bitcoin balance for the stroller as well. So it's amazing what's happening out there.
You see other currency, other than bitcoins that moving on?
I haven't really realized it up to this moment, but I see it more and more frequently. I only have seen so far Bitcoin.
Okay, thank you. Yoram, we spoke yesterday and we started to speak about machine learning and all the new things going on in Microsoft. First, I want to tell something or ask something about Microsoft. Somebody talked about Microsoft it's good to laugh about Microsoft, like to laugh about, I don't know, Yair Lapid.
We love to be the underdogs.
I see that sometimes you say Yair Lapid and everybody's laughing, and now nobody's laughing. I don't know what to think about it. But somebody that I saw in one big convention, he say, if a company missed 2 waves of innovation, or 2 rounds of big innovation, it's out of the game. And Microsoft, I think, lose 3. You missed the search eventually, the mobile eventually, and social media eventually. And still now we see a very new wave coming from the new CEO and coming from Microsoft. So please, if you can talk a little bit how sensitive today Microsoft is from what's happening around her, and what is the main innovating things going on in Microsoft, and especially in your R&D center.
Okay. First, maybe just accuracy. I think we probably have lost some rounds of innovation in the past. I mean, everyone knows that we are behind on mobile. But on the other hand, if you look at cloud, we were the second cloud provider out there, back in 2005. And we still have one of the best cloud positions in the market. Definitely the best cloud position when you talk about the enterprise space, sometimes even in the consumer space. So I definitely don't think we have missed the cloud cycle. Now, when we look at Microsoft, when you listen to our CEO, to Satya Nadella, he talks with 2 angles at Microsoft. One, he's saying that we are a cloud and mobile company. To translate, we're definitely a cloud company. Again, I talked about Azure as a big service that we have. And mobile because we're still in the mobile game. Yeah, we are behind, but we're still in the mobile game. The second angle that he talks about the company, which is more interesting in my mind, is we are a machine learning and data company. And why is that interesting? And that's the way he describes Microsoft. Because if you look at the future and the innovation we can create in the future and what's going to be important in the future, I apologize for using for a second very well-tread buzzwords such as machine learning, big data, Internet of Things. But I want to take one step forward and just give some example of when you combine all of these technologies, and Microsoft has some presence in all of these technologies. We have machine learning, we have a lot of data, from Bing, from all the services that we run. When you combine all of this, amazing things can happen. That I'm not sure that even everyone in the room here can imagine what we can do with a combination of data, machine learning. I'll just give you a couple of examples. Even start with a small example of Xbox One, which we just saw. Xbox One, if you play with it, is able to recognize, using the camera, your body and gestures, everything you do, not just in a lighted room like here, but even in a room which is a very dim light, almost dark conditions, which you usually where you play. This is all about machine learning and understanding how you move. And this is innovation that was actually created here in Israel to use 3D cameras and computer vision to do that. Okay, so that's one small example of machine learning. Okay, let's go with maybe somewhat a bigger example. We talked a lot about security and cyber. One of the biggest threats we have, cyber. I think you mentioned cyber and security. One of the things we can do today, which we could not have done without the amounts of data that we have and the machine learning that we have a year ago, we can today, because we got information from lots of PCs, about 1 billion PCs out there that runs our antivirus software, we could actually tell you today not that the virus hit your machine, but that the virus will hit your machine in the future. It's almost science fiction. Based on the behavior of your machine over time, which we learn, we know that maybe in a week, a specific virus is going to hit your machine. We can actually stop the virus before it hits your machine. That's something we can do with machine learning, okay? And maybe one last example I'm going to give is personalization. Again, we have a lot of data, and I understand it creates issues and concerns of privacy, and if you give me more time, I can talk about that as well later. But we have lots of information, and we can learn a lot about you. By the way, a lot of that information exists on your device. It doesn't have to go to the cloud or anywhere. But because of what we learn about you, we can actually give you a very personal service. Cortana is our digital personal assistant, okay? Cortana knows a lot about you. A lot of it is on your phone, based on where you've been and so on.
Sorry for the compression, but it's like, what, Google Now? You know where I'm going, and then you give me the road,
and then
you give me Waze or...
For example, or we can give you completely, for example, when I open my phone in the morning, Cortana gives me immediately, just by opening the phone, news that are specific for me, because Cortana knows what kind of news I'm reading. Sports news about the teams that I like, because Cortana knows what kind of news I like, about what sports teams I read. Weather for my location, that's kind of easy, right? It knows my location, give me weather for my location. It can give me, it does give me concerts, so if it knows that there is a band that I like, because I listen to music of that band, I will actually get indication that there is a concert next week of that band here in Israel. Doesn't happen a lot that we have concerts in Israel, but so these are kind of things that you can do. We could not have done that before because we did not have the data.
We spoke yesterday, and I admit I thought about it a lot of the night. You talked about interface with no interface, like things happening with no. Can you be more specific?
So that's something we call invisible UI. I mean, we used to operate UI, and it's usually hard. You have to know where to press, what menus to select, and so on. We are imagining a world when there is no UI. How can there be a world with no UI? It's very simple. If the systems around you know what you want to do, they know where you're going, they can do things for you. And there's actually a lot of these things happening today. One example is actually on my wrist. It's not a Microsoft product, it's a Nike Fuel Band, which measures my steps, lots of information that I gather during the day, kind of fitness, okay? There is no UI to this thing. I don't need to do anything for that information to be collected. I just put it on in the morning, I take it off at night, and without me being involved, without me doing anything, pressing anything, it uploads information to the cloud, and I can see, if I want later, I can see graph information, I can get alerts about things that I've done during the day. Now, did I operate any UI for all of that to happen? No. That's completely invisible.
Invisible for me. Okay, do you have questions? Any questions from the crowd? This is the time. Somebody want to pitch a startup to Microsoft?
Can we just do an experiment? Because I actually felt a bit sorry for Microsoft there. Should we put our hands up of how many people in this room have either bought or used the Microsoft product or using? So, okay. So what that's about, help me with a percentage here because I don't want to be biased. Okay, put your hands up higher. Okay, me too. Okay, put your hands up. How many people here use only Apple products? Only, that means, okay. And how many people here use Google? Everything's, actually it's not that, so if you think about it, it's actually not bad. And how many here use BlackBerry? Sorry, I forgot about them. Who here still has a BlackBerry? Go on. Don't be embarrassed. So I think the point is, it's still going on, and not that there's anyone from BlackBerry here, or we're going to get in trouble for saying this, but they're the ones in trouble.
Well, we have a couple of minutes. I want to talk about a subject that don't discuss much in these kinds of panels. I want to talk about education. Last quote for today: motivation is the catalyst for every successful innovation. The same is true for learning. This is Clayton Christensen for the Innovation Dilemma. Do you think, Daniel, we will start with you, and I will be glad if anybody will give his 20 cents for the subject. Can you teach kids to be innovative?
I'd go the other way. And the challenge I see, and I think where some brands have gone is it's more complacency that stops. When you're riding high and you think you always ride high, you always have to continue to look and move forward. So going back to that question of can you teach people to be innovative is the same question, can you teach people to be entrepreneurial? I think if you educate people to challenge the status quo, don't just accept things, that's something when people can be solving a solution. And just to throw an Asia example, the biggest problem in Asia is the whole hierarchy of if somebody older than you or more important than you says something, it is disrespectful to question or to criticize. So that's why, but now you see that Asian countries, some of them have gone completely opposite. We need to be innovative, and they're trying to throw, question, but it's within the DNA. So I think going back to your question of education is if you educate people to see that they can achieve what they want to do, don't be scared to be respectful, but challenge authority, and challenge just because something happens the way it always has done is not the way it always should. And I think chutzpah is a big factor of it, if you don't mind being mouthy or bolshy. And I think it's the culture of the people. Some people love to be in an environment where energetic people can be honed and focused, and some places are a bit slower. And I think that's the same in society. Like you give an example in Yangon, in Burma, the economy's growing. There are people who've been overly controlled, but the borders are open, the country's growing, and it's going to skyrocket. So I think it's people's culture is those that wish to do well will, and wish to change things will, and those that don't. And culture can help accelerate it, but it's based on, I think, human nature.
Yoram, and if you can talk a little bit, we read in the papers that in decreasing amounts of students in Israel that are capable to do so and so. Do you feel it as an employer, as somebody that needs a lot of innovative and economic people?
Absolutely. First, just one tidbit of opinion. I think it's the other way around. I think kids should teach us about innovation, not the other way around. Okay? I think we can learn a lot from kids about innovation. About students, Israel is experiencing what the US have been experiencing for a long time now, which is less and less high-tech and computer scientists coming out of the universities. Believe it or not, there's actually less graduates from the Israeli CS departments in 2011, that's the last number I have, compared to 2001. So in the last 10 years, we have less and less graduates. Guess what happened during the same time? Companies like us, Microsoft R&D Center in Israel is growing. New R&D centers are opening in Israel almost every week, okay? Which means we need more people. Less people in universities, we need more people. Guess what that creates? A lot of pressure on talent in Israel. And that's why we are working together between all the multinational companies, at least all the multinational R&D centers, to go actually not to the academia, not to universities, but to high schools, and try to encourage students, mainly girls, because girls are not really present, or women not really present enough in our industry, to go more towards high tech.
András, you work in many countries and in Israel. Do you think we are educated? No. This is not the question. Do you see that it's easier to to get into the market new product, new things in Israel more than in other places, or you see any change in this?
Definitely, it's particularly in my industry is very interesting from this point of view. On the one hand, it's extremely developed in Israel. There is extreme good acceptance and card acceptance. There are, of course, some old-fashioned elements in this, but I think in general, people in Israel, if I compare it to my other markets and the other markets I used to work in, they are much more affine towards innovation. So it's certainly people are more open to innovative ideas than elsewhere what I have seen so far. I think it is not knowing too much the Israeli educational system or in general but if I compare it typically to Europe, And I think we have in the European Union something which is called a PISA test, so which is being repeated on an annual basis where school kids, different ages, are being asked to solve certain or answer certain questions, and it shows really the lack of thinking out of the box. So typically, if I think back of my own education or the time in the school, I had to learn what was in the books, and I never questioned anything. I think, and then this is the way how the educational system in generally in Europe is changing. That you're not drilled to answer questions in one particular way, but you are drilled to explore a question and to find answers, different answers. It doesn't have to be the right one. You just need to think about what the solution might be.
Well, it's a very interesting subject, I think, for next time. We won't finish without the Daniel props. Give us your props.
So it was quite ironic that when I saw the name of the panel, that I was in Indonesia and saw a selfie stick. This is a phenomenon going around. It's basically was a tripod that you pull up and you can take a picture of. Now the problem is, unless you've got giant arms, you can't turn it on. So I found an app that you can use that you can take a picture. Now I was in Asia again 2 weeks ago. So this was exactly about 6 weeks afterwards, and the same shop, I saw version 2 that now has Bluetooth in the handle that you can take a picture. So for me, that's a classic example of showcasing innovation that solves an issue that you don't have long arms, so the button. I would use this one, but the battery's run out or the Bluetooth's not working because I got it on a cheap. But if we can get a selfie with everybody standing up behind, I'll use the timer on the old version. So just hold the mic. Everyone should stand up and wave. Let me get it ready if I've got battery.
No questions, so standing up, please.
All right, we're going to get a good angle, and if the cameraman... Okay, here we go. 1 sec. Okay, we all ready? Let's smile. Everyone wave.
Hands up!
Wave!
Thank you very, very, very much. You were a wonderful crowd. Thank you. Thank you all.